The click of my security badge echoed through the empty lobby. 3 a.m., another night, another round. I'd been walking these same floors for 12 years now, and the marble had never once asked me who I used to be. That's what I liked about it. The building didn't care that I'd once written code that changed the world. It just needed someone to make sure the doors were locked. My son-in-law once asked me if I ever got bored doing security work. I told him no. Bored was sitting in meetings, listening to people take credit for your ideas. Bored was watching someone else's name on the patents you wrote. This was honest. The building was safe or it wasn't. Simple. Clean. No lies. Then my daughter Emma called. It was 11 p.m., which meant it was important. She never called during my shift unless something was wrong. Dad, her voice was tight, worried. I just got the strangest email. From Marcus Chen. I stopped walking. That name. I hadn't heard it spoken aloud in 12 years. Not since Linda's funeral 8 months ago. And even then, he'd sent flowers but didn't show his face. What does he want? He says. Dad, he says he's invited you to the Chronix Tech IPO celebration this Friday. At the Fairmont. He says it's important you're there. Something about honoring the original team. She paused. Dad, I looked it up. The company's going public at $180 million. That's his company, right? The one you... Yes, I cut her off. The less said about that, the better. It's his company. Are you going to go? I looked down at my uniform. Navy blue polyester. A silver badge that said, Sullivan. Security. Once upon a time, I'd worn custom-tailored shirts and met with venture capitalists. Once upon a time, my name had been on the door. I don't think I belong there, Emma. Dad, her voice softened. Mom's lawyer called me too, Miss Winters. She says you need to be there. She says Mom left specific instructions in her will that you had to attend. Something about timing. Linda. Even 8 months gone, she was still playing chess while everyone else played checkers. She'd been like that. Always 3 moves ahead. Always planning. When did Mom arrange this? Miss Winters says she updated her will 6 weeks before she passed. Dad, I think Mom wanted you there for a reason. I thought about the last time I'd seen Marcus. It was at a TechCrunch conference in 2011. He'd walked right past me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Didn't even glance my way. I was invisible. I'd gotten used to it. Tell Miss Winters I'll be there. That Friday, I stood in my bedroom, looking at the single suit I owned. It was the same one I'd worn to Linda's funeral. Before that, my daughter's college graduation. Before that, I honestly couldn't remember. The fabric was good quality, purchased in better times, but the cut was outdated. The shoulders were too wide, the pants too full. I looked like a man playing dress-up in his father's clothes. Emma had offered to buy me a new suit. I'd refused. What was the point? I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just honoring my wife's last request, whatever that meant. The Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco was exactly the kind of place Marcus would choose. All marble and gold, soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place that whispered money with every polished surface. I gave my name at the door, and the young woman with the tablet looked at me with barely concealed confusion. Robert Sullivan? Yes. She scrolled, frowned, scrolled again. I'm sorry, sir, I don't see you on the VIP list. Are you perhaps here for the service staff entrance? That's around back. Before I could answer, a voice cut through the lobby. He's exactly where he belonged. Marcus Chen. He emerged from a cluster of people in expensive suits, and I barely recognized him. The Marcus I remembered had been lean, hungry, always moving. This Marcus was polished. His suit probably cost more than my car. His hair was silver now, professionally styled. He wore success like armor. Robert, he didn't extend his hand. You actually came. My daughter said it was important. Oh, it is. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Come on, let me show you where you'll be sitting. He led me through the glittering crowd. Everywhere people were drinking champagne and laughing. I recognized some faces from the old tech magazines, investors, journalists, the people who decided which stories got told and which ones got buried. Marcus stopped at a table near the back of the ballroom, not in the back, technically, but close enough that the message was clear. The white tablecloth was pristine, the place settings elegant. It was also empty. "This is your table," Marcus said. "We thought it was appropriate. Given your contribution to the company's history." "I was your co-founder, Marcus." "Were you?" He tilted his head, as if genuinely trying to remember. "I recall you worked for us briefly in the early days, before the real company started, before we had actual professionals." He gestured around the room. "All these people, they built something real. They created value. They executed." I said nothing. What was there to say? He'd been telling this lie for so long he probably believed it himself. "Anyway," Marcus continued, "enjoy the evening. The salmon is supposed to be excellent." He started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Robert? Maybe don't talk too much about the old days. These people don't really care about garage stories. They care about results." He smiled. "And you have to admit, results were never really your strong suit." I watched him return to the front of the room, where a table was reserved right by the stage. A woman in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent sat there. Veronica, his wife. 20 years younger, always perfectly assembled. She looked at me, registered nothing, and returned to her phone. The speeches started. The CEO of the NASDAQ spoke. A famous venture capitalist spoke. And then Marcus took the stage. 25 years ago," he began, his voice carrying perfectly through the sound system, "I had a dream. A vision of what technology could be. Not just functional, but beautiful. Not just useful, but transformative." I watched him pace the stage, every gesture practiced, every pause calculated. I started Chronix Tech in a garage, with nothing but that vision, and a willingness to work harder than anyone else. People told me it was impossible. They said the market was too crowded. They said I didn't have the experience. He paused, letting the audience lean in. But I believed, and more importantly, I executed. The crowd applauded. I looked down at my water glass. "Now, I want to be fair," Marcus continued. "In those early days I had some help. There were people who worked for me. People who did their best, even if their best wasn't always enough. People who, frankly, couldn't keep up when things got serious." His eyes found mine across the room. "But I want to honor them anyway. Because even small contributions matter." The room laughed. It was a kind laugh, generous even. They thought he was being humble. "So, I'd like to acknowledge Robert Sullivan, who's here tonight. Robert worked as our first IT administrator back in the 90s, before we were really Chronix Tech, before we had real programmers." He raised his glass. "Robert, thank you for your service. I hope you're enjoying the salmon." More laughter. Polite applause. A few people at nearby tables glanced my way, then back to their conversations. I was a footnote, a name in the credits no one read. The dinner ended. People began to disperse, moving to the bar or clustering in conversation groups. I stood to leave. There was nothing for me here. "Mr. Sullivan?" I turned. A woman in her 60s, gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a charcoal suit that screamed professional. She carried a leather portfolio. "Yes?" "Patricia Winters. I was your wife's attorney." "Ms. Winters. Emma mentioned you called." "Yes. I need you to come with me, please. There's a conference room reserved on the second floor. It's time." "Time for what?" Her expression softened just slightly. "To honor Linda's final wishes." The conference room was smaller than I expected. Just a rectangular table, high-backed chairs, and a view of the San Francisco skyline. Miss Winters took a seat at the head of the table and began removing documents from her portfolio. The door opened. Marcus walked in, followed by his wife Veronica, and a thin man I recognized as Thomas Walsh, Chronix Tech CFO. They stopped when they saw me. "What is he doing here?" Marcus demanded. Miss Winters didn't look up from arranging her papers. "Mr. Chen, thank you for coming. Please, sit down." "I don't understand. This is about Linda's will?" "Robert and Linda were divorced." "No, Mr. Chen, they were not." Miss Winters looked up, her expression neutral. "They separated but never finalized the divorce. Legally, they remained married until Mrs. Sullivan's death." I blinked. I hadn't known that. Linda had never mentioned it. Marcus's face reddened. That's absurd. They hadn't lived together in 15 years. Nevertheless, please sit. It wasn't a request. Marcus sat, but he didn't look happy about it. Veronica perched beside him, already looking bored. Thomas pulled out his phone. Miss Winters opened a leather-bound folder. This is the last will and testament of Linda Marie Sullivan, dated 6 weeks before her death. Mrs. Sullivan was very specific about how this reading should be conducted and who should be present. She put on reading glasses. I'll begin. The first part was standard. Linda's debts, funeral expenses, all to be paid from her estate. Then the specific bequests. To my sister, Margaret, I leave my collection of first edition mystery novels and the sum of $50,000. To my assistant, Rachel Martinez, who showed me more kindness in my final year than I deserved, I leave the sum of $30,000 and my personal laptop, which contains memories she helped me preserve. Miss Winters paused, turned a page. To Mr. Thomas Walsh, Chief Financial Officer of Chronix Tech, I leave the sum of $5,000. Thomas looked up from his phone, surprised. That's very generous of Linda. I barely knew her. Miss Winters continued reading, her voice flat. I leave this sum with the legally binding recommendation that Mr. Walsh use it to retain a competent defense attorney. He will need one when the SEC finishes investigating the financial irregularities I have documented and reported. The color drained from Thomas's face. What? That's ridiculous. I don't know what she's talking about. I have copies of her complaint here. If you'd like to review them, Miss Winters said mildly. She moved on without waiting for an answer. To Mrs. Veronica Chen, I leave my diamond tennis bracelet. Veronica perked up. Oh? The bracelet which Mrs. Chen attempted to steal from my jewelry box during her visit to my home last Christmas. I had assumed she simply forgot to return it before leaving, so I had it retrieved by my attorney. It is currently being held in escrow, and Mrs. Chen may claim it once she signs a document acknowledging her theft. Veronica's perfect composure cracked. I never. That's a lie. I don't need her cheap jewelry anyway. It was appraised at $75,000, Miss Winters noted, and there is security camera footage. But yes, you are welcome to decline the bequest. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. This is outrageous. Linda was clearly not in her right mind. We'll contest this entire document. Miss Winters reached into her portfolio and removed a thick envelope. Anticipated, Mr. Chen. Attached to the will is a complete psychiatric evaluation performed by 3 independent physicians 2 days before the will was signed. They unanimously declared Mrs. Sullivan to be of sound mind and exceptional cognitive function for her age. She dropped the envelope on the table. Would you like to read it? Silence. I'll continue then. Miss Winters turned back to her document. Now, we come to the primary estate. Marcus leaned forward. This was it. Linda had been smart, had made good investments. There was probably a few $1,000,000, maybe more. And despite everything, they'd been friends once. Maybe she'd left him something. A gesture. Recognition of the past. To Mr. Marcus Chen, CEO of Chronix Tech, I leave the following items. Miss Winters' voice was steady, professional. First, I leave him the original computer mouse from our garage startup in 1995. The one he has displayed in his office as a symbol of his humble beginnings. Marcus relaxed slightly. Okay, a sentimental item. That was fine. That was appropriate. Mr. Chen may keep this item, which he has claimed for 25 years represents his innovative spirit. In reality, I purchased that mouse at Office Depot for $2.49. I have the receipt. A muscle in Marcus's jaw twitched. Second, Miss Winters continued, I leave Mr. Chen a complete set of the original Chronix Tech Incorporation documents from 1995. This was better. Historical documents, maybe even valuable. These documents list 3 co-founders, Marcus Chen, Linda Sullivan, and Robert Sullivan, each with equal shares. Mr. Chen may keep these documents as a reminder of the history he has spent 25 years trying to erase. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I looked at Linda's attorney, but she wasn't looking at me. She was watching Marcus. Finally, Miss Winters said, "I leave Mr. Marcus Chen the sum of $25. The number hung in the air. $25, Miss Winters repeated, in cash. This represents $1 for each year Mr. Chen has lied about who really built Chronix Tech. It should be exactly enough for bus fare to the unemployment office, which is where he'll be going once the board of directors receives the evidence I have compiled." "What evidence?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Miss Winters set down the will. She reached into her portfolio and removed another folder. This one was much thicker. "Mrs. Sullivan spent the last 8 years of her life documenting your theft of intellectual property, Mr. Chen. Every patent filed under your name that was actually coded by Mr. Robert Sullivan. Every investor meeting where you claimed sole credit for work that was collaborative. Every contract you signed that deliberately excluded the other co-founders from equity." She opened the folder. Inside were printouts, screenshots, handwritten notes, notarized documents. She has emails. Mr. Chen, saved in multiple secure locations. Emails where you explicitly discussed how to force Robert Sullivan out of the company. Emails where you coordinated with your attorneys to structure buyouts that dramatically undervalued his shares. Emails where you laughed about it. Marcus stood up. "This is insane. Linda was sick. She was on medications. She didn't know what she was doing." "She knew exactly what she was doing." Miss Winters' voice cut like a blade. "She was protecting the man she loved. The man who actually built the technology you've been selling for 25 years. The man you publicly humiliated an hour ago while accepting credit for his work." "I built that company," Marcus shouted. "I raised the money. I hired the team. I made Chronix Tech what it is. Robert couldn't have done any of that. He was a programmer, not a businessman. He had no vision." "He had the code," Miss Winters said quietly, "and Mrs. Sullivan made sure he got it back." She turned to me finally. "Mr. Sullivan, your wife spent the last decade quietly purchasing shares of Chronix Tech through various holding companies and trusts. She used her own money, her investments, her inheritance from her parents. She never told you because she was afraid you'd try to stop her. You always were too kind." I couldn't speak. "Your wife now owns, and through this will bequeaths to you, 51% of Chronix Tech. You are, as of this moment, the majority shareholder and chairman of the board." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. "That's impossible," Marcus said, but his voice had lost its strength. "That would cost millions. Linda didn't have that kind of money." "Yes, she did, Miss Winters said, because 20 years ago, Mr. Sullivan, in an act of profound love and trust, signed over his patent rights to your wife to protect them from being seized in the forced buyout Mr. Chen orchestrated. She held those patents in trust, and when several major tech companies were found to be in violation, the subsequent settlements were substantial. $70 million over 10 years, to be precise. I remembered that. Linda had asked me to sign papers. She said it was to protect me, to keep Marcus from taking everything. I'd signed because I trusted her. I hadn't known what happened after. Mrs. Sullivan reinvested every penny, Miss Winters continued. She bought Chronix Tech shares slowly, carefully, through shell companies and investment groups that Mr. Chen never connected to her. She waited, and she documented everything. She turned back to Marcus. Your IPO today valued the company at $180 million. Mr. Sullivan now owns $92 million of that. You, Mr. Chen, own approximately $15 million. The rest is distributed among other investors and employees. Marcus just stared, his mouth opened. No sound came out. But there's more, Miss Winters said. She wasn't smiling, but there was something in her voice. Something Linda had probably appreciated. Mrs. Sullivan has also left detailed instructions for how the company should be managed going forward. Instructions that, as majority shareholder, Mr. Sullivan is free to follow or ignore as he chooses. She slid a sealed envelope across the table to me. These are her suggestions, private, for you alone. I took the envelope with shaking hands. As for you, Mr. Chen, Miss Winters gathered her documents. Mrs. Sullivan's final wish regarding your role in the company was quite clear. I'll read it directly. She found the page. Marcus spent 25 years pretending Robert didn't exist. Perhaps now Marcus can learn what that actually feels like. The board will be informed of the change in ownership tomorrow. They'll be receiving my complete evidence file simultaneously. I trust they'll make appropriate decisions about leadership. Veronica stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Thomas, call our lawyers. We're going to fight this. You're going to lose, Miss Winters interrupted. Everything Mrs. Sullivan did was legal, documented, and thoroughly vetted by 3 different law firms. You can spend your money on attorneys if you'd like. You'll need it, since your husband will shortly be unemployed. Veronica looked at Marcus. Something passed between them. A calculation. A decision. She grabbed her purse. Where are you going? Marcus asked. Anywhere but here. You think I married you for your personality? She walked out without looking back. Thomas had already gone, slipping out during Miss Winters' explanation, probably to call his own attorney. That left just Marcus. He stood there in his perfect suit, in this perfect conference room, with his perfect life crumbling around him like sand. Robert, he said finally. His voice was different now, smaller. Robert, please. We can work this out. I made mistakes, yes, but I built something too. The company. It's not nothing. We can share it, like we should have from the beginning. I looked at him, really looked at him. 25 years ago, we'd been friends. We'd stayed up all night debugging code, eating pizza, dreaming about changing the world. Somewhere along the way, he'd decided the dream mattered more than the truth, more than friendship, more than honor. Get out, Marcus. Robert, get out. He left. The door closed with a soft click. Miss Winters began packing her documents. Your wife loved you very much, Mr. Sullivan. I hope you know that. Why didn't she tell me? All those years. She was ashamed, Miss Winters said simply. Ashamed that she couldn't stop Marcus in the moment. Ashamed that she let you take the fall. Ashamed that she didn't speak up. She paused. But she spent the rest of her life trying to make it right. I think she did. After she left, I sat alone in the conference room. The San Francisco skyline glittered through the windows. Somewhere down there, a party was probably still going on. Marcus's big night, his triumph, his moment. Except it wasn't his anymore. It never really had been. I opened the envelope Linda had left me. Inside was a letter in her handwriting, shaky but clear. Robert, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if Miss Winters did her job, you're probably in shock. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for so many things. I should have spoken up 25 years ago when Marcus started cutting you out. I should have fought harder. I should have stood by you publicly instead of hiding behind legal maneuvering and quiet documentation. I chose the easy path, and it cost you everything. I can't give you back those years. I can't restore your reputation or the career you should have had. What I can give you is a choice. The company is yours now. You can run it. You can sell it. You can burn it down if that would make you happy. Or you can do what I think you'll do, because you're a better person than Marcus or me ever were. In this envelope, you'll find the names of every employee who actually contributed to Chronix Tech's success over the years, the programmers who worked overtime, the designers who poured their hearts into products that bore Marcus's name, the support staff who held everything together. I suggest you share the company with them. Make it an employee-owned cooperative. Give them what Marcus never gave you: recognition, equity, and respect. As for Marcus, that's up to you too. The evidence file Miss Winters has is complete. It would destroy him. Whether you use it or simply keep it as insurance, that's your decision. I love you. I always have. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to show it when it mattered. Always yours, Linda. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. The next morning I called Emma. Dad? How did it go? I've been trying to reach you all night. It went fine, sweetheart. Listen, can you help me with something? I need to set up some meetings. A lot of meetings. With who? With everyone who actually built Chronix Tech. 3 months later, I was back at the Fairmont Hotel. Same ballroom, different event. This time, every seat was filled with Chronix Tech employees, not executives. employees. The programmers, the designers, the people who actually made the products that made the money. I stood at the microphone in my same outdated suit. I still hadn't bought a new one. Didn't see the point. 25 years ago, I began. 3 people started a company in a garage. We believed in something, not just technology, but collaboration. We believed that good work, honest work, mattered more than credit, more than glory. I paused. I lost sight of that for a while. It's easy to feel bitter when someone takes what's yours, but bitterness is just another kind of theft. It steals your time, your peace, your purpose. I looked around the room. My wife Linda spent the last years of her life righting a wrong. Not for revenge, not even for justice, really. She did it because she believed you deserved better. All of you. The people who actually built this company while someone else took the bows. I pulled out a document. So here's what's going to happen. Chronix Tech is becoming an employee-owned cooperative. Everyone in this room, everyone who's been here more than 2 years, is getting shares. Real shares, not options, not promises, ownership. The room erupted. People were crying, laughing, hugging. We're going to run this company the way it should have been run from the beginning, collaboratively, honestly, with respect for the people who actually do the work. Afterward, Emma found me. Dad, Marcus was here. Did you know that? I saw him. He was standing in the back during your speech. Then he just left. Yeah. Are you going to press charges? Use the evidence Mom collected? I thought about it. About Linda's letter. About the choice she'd given me. No, I said finally. He lost the company. He lost his credibility. That's enough. The best revenge is building something better and letting him watch from the outside. That's very Buddhist of you, Dad. Your mother would have liked that. I smiled. She was always 3 moves ahead. Even now, I think she's still teaching me. 6 months after that, I was back in my small apartment in Oakland. I'd sold most of my Chronix Tech shares to the cooperative at a fair price, kept just enough to be comfortable, not enough to be wealthy. Wealth had never been the point. I still worked security. Different building, but same shift. 3 a.m. rounds, checking doors, making sure everything was safe. People thought I was crazy. You're rich now, Emma said. You could retire, travel, do anything. But this was what I wanted. The quiet, the simple certainty of a locked door, the honest exchange of time for money, work for peace. Sometimes I think about Marcus, wonder where he ended up. According to Emma, he started another company. Smaller. He never mentions Chronix Tech anymore, never claims credit for what happened there. Maybe he learned something. Maybe he didn't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. Linda's letter sits on my dresser. I read it sometimes, when the nights are long and the building is too quiet. She was right about everything. About the company, about the choice, about me. She knew I wouldn't burn it down. She knew I'd try to build something better. That's what love is, I think. Knowing someone well enough to trust them with the hardest choices, even after you're gone. The click of my badge echoes through the lobby. Another night, another round. But now when the marble reflects my face, I see something different. Not a man who lost everything. A man who got it back and learned it was never really lost at all. Some victories are quiet. Some justice comes slowly. But truth has a weight and patience all its own. 25 years buried, and it still clawed its way to the surface. That's the lesson Linda taught me in the end. Not about money or companies or revenge. She taught me that honor isn't about what people think of you. It's about who you are when no one's watching. It's about walking your rounds at 3 a.m., checking your doors, and knowing you sleep well because you've got nothing to hide. Marcus lost everything trying to look like a hero. I found everything by accepting I was just a man doing his job. In the end, that made all the difference.